Hey, this is Shannon. I am here with my fiance for my environmental ethics class, and we're going to have a conversation about urban agriculture. First off, do you consent to being recorded for this assignment?
Yes, I do consent.
Cool. So, urban agriculture is basically growing food in cities, things like community gardens, rooftop farms, vertical farming, that kind of stuff. It helps with food insecurity, sustainability, and building stronger communities. So, my first question is, what do you think are the biggest challenges urban agriculture projects face within the cities?
Honestly, probably space. Like, cities are already pretty packed, so finding enough land or rooftops to grow a lot of food seems pretty hard. And probably money too. Setting that stuff up is not a cheap process at all.
Yeah, totally. I've read that the funding and zoning laws can make it harder too. So it's really interesting because these projects can really help reduce our carbon footprint by cutting down transportation of foods and supporting local communities. So, how do you think urban farming helps with sustainability and biodiversity in cities?
Well, I guess if you're growing food locally or like in your community, you're not really relying on a huge factor like factory farms as much. And maybe it brings more plants and insects into the city, which could help balance ecosystems even a little bit.
Right. It's pretty cool how adding more green spaces help pollinators, improves air quality, and just makes the city feel healthier overall. Okay. Another question I have is, what kinds of policies or incentives do you think should exist to promote urban agriculture? Like, what could governments do to make it easier?
I think that's a good question. I think cities could give tax breaks or even grants to people starting these projects, or even let people use abandoned lots for free. It would be cool if they partnered with like schools or some other type of community, YMCA, so that way kids could also learn how to grow the food.
Yeah, I love the school idea. Plus, the more people know how to grow their own food, the less dependent they are on the big corporations. So, how do you think urban agriculture can help people become more food secure and self sufficient?
I mean, if your neighborhood has a community garden, again, you can literally get fresh food down the street, and that makes a pretty big difference, especially for people in food deserts who might have only gas stations and like fast
Mm-hmm.
food and stuff like me and you grew up around nearby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It feels like a justice issue, too. Everyone deserves access to fresh, healthy food, not just people in the rich areas. And so, speaking of making it easier, what do you think about using technology like hydroponics or vertical farming? Do you think that could help?
Yeah, I think so. Hydroponics seems smart because you can grow a lot in like a small vertical space and it doesn't use as much water.
Mm-hmm.
Those vertical farms seem like something you could see in the future. I'd even like to see one of those in the apartments, on our patio or something. We've talked about that.
Yeah, and it's cool that the technology can make local food systems even stronger. So, on the ethical side, do you think people like us who live in a decent area have a moral obligation to support things like urban agriculture, especially if it helps people in the lower income communities?
Yeah, I do. I mean, if you have the money or even some time to support stuff that helps people and planet, why wouldn't you? We teach our son that.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to do. To shop local, donate to projects. Clean up after yourself, little things.
Yeah, agreed. It's like we're all responsible for making things better where we can, you know? All right, so last thing, how do you feel about the idea of food justice overall? So when you think about people living in food deserts or wasting tons of food while others go hungry, what comes to your mind?
It's pretty messed up. I think a lot about how much food gets thrown away while, there's people who can't even afford basic groceries.
Mm-hmm.
It's also something we grew up learning from our parents, to make sure you don't waste food.
Yeah.
Urban agriculture probably won't fix everything, but I do know that it's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you, Matthew. That wraps everything up. Thank you for talking with me and helping out with this and drawing light to this conversation.
Absolutely, I love having these types of conversation and opening up, more opinions on this stuff. Especially with Asher growing up in this world.
Yes, yes. Very scary. Well, thank you so much. Ending the recording now.